Great. I think I heard a recording started, but maybe that was someone else. But if you could record on your computer, that would be great, Yusha.
Yeah, I have recorded.
Okay, thanks.
听不懂啊。
Um, can you make it a little bit larger and get started? Perfect. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We are delighted to have you here today. First, for those of you who are not native English speakers, we do have lots of languages in captions. So you just go to the bottom of your Zoom screen and you'll see Show Captions at the bottom. You can see that here in red. And then you go to Caption and Translation Language. Next slide. A few workshop rules. Please remember to keep your microphones muted. You can type questions directly into the chat box and our team will respond. Unless you're called on by a moderator as part of a participatory session, go ahead and keep your microphone muted. Respect everyone's participants' views and opinions. We suggest you give yourself an identifiable name on the Zoom link. All the PowerPoints and videos will be archived on the website, and we'll put the website into the chat box. That'll be there within 24 hours or so of the presentations. And before we get started, I'd like to direct people to a very brief survey that'll help us get to know you better and shape the workshop. So I'm just going to direct you to the chat box where I put the survey. You can click on the link to the survey. It'll only take a few minutes to complete, and then we can get started with the first session. Great. Thanks, everyone, for completing the survey, and we'll give you a brief reminder at the very end for those who didn't have a chance to complete it. Next slide, please. So the origin of this training workshop really goes back to last year to Cape Town, South Africa, where a group from the Social Innovation and Health Initiative met. And there was a real desire to do more training and capacity building related to social innovation and health. And this group said, you know, we've done things before, but we need to sort of take it to the next level. We need to make social innovation training more standardized and provide more opportunities for people to learn about social innovation. And so coming out of this workshop was a bunch of different organizations partnered together to develop the workshop training series that you're joining in today. Next slide, please. The purpose of this training is to enhance understanding of social innovation and health and its core components. And we define social innovation as a community-engaged process that brings together health and social outputs. The course is free and open to anyone. This is very focused on social innovation and health. This builds on a previous training series that we started 2 years ago now, and Yusha's paper in the slide below shows how we developed the initial training series. For those of you who join the session and complete the survey today and the one on the final day, there will be a certificate available. Next slide, please. So the schedule, this will be happening every Tuesday from 1 to 2 p.m. West African time. That's 8 to 9 p.m. in China. It goes from today through July 23rd. There are sessions on methods, practical strategies, skills, and there are participatory elements. You'll see these in full form today. So without further ado, I'd like to turn things over to Dr. Gifty Marley, a postdoctoral fellow at UNC Project China, who will introduce us to participatory health research. Over to you, Dr. Marley.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tucker. I think it'll be better if I share the screen from my end. Yusha, is it okay if I share the screen so that you can? Okay. Can you go to the next slide, please? Next. So, like Dr. Tucker already introduced, my name is Dr. Gifty Marley. I'm with UNC Project China as a postdoctoral fellow, and I'm happy to be here. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone, and thank you for joining us. Today, I'll be talking briefly about giving an introduction to participatory health research methods, give some examples of participatory health research methods that are out there that you can apply or use in your research work, and also give some practical tips on how designathons and how to organize them successfully. In the second part of this session, next slide, please. In the second session of this workshop, there's going to be a participatory activity where we all get to have an interactive session. And we can have experts on various types of participatory health research methods. Next slide, please. Yusha, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Next slide. Okay, it's okay. You can leave it here. The next section is going to have a participatory session with experts talking on different types of giving deep discussions and having an interactive session on different types of participatory health research. So my first session is just going to give a brief introduction of what is participatory health research. And participatory health research is basically a research paradigm where the entirety of your research program or your research implementation is done in collaboration or in partnership with stakeholders of different backgrounds, of different perspectives, of different expertise. And this is also to ensure you have community engagement throughout the process of implementation. One of the key important aspects of using participatory health research methods is that it compels the formation of a trustful relationship between the researchers and then the community that we hope to serve. And this can help promote community ownership of the study. It contributes to community empowerment, as well as spurs more innovation by having community input into the design and implementation of the research process. Next. Next slide. So why would you want to use community participatory health research methods in your research approach? It has many benefits for both the communities that we are hoping to serve as well as for researchers. And the first being that it provides great empowerment for the community. It increases communities' literacy about the research that is being carried out. And it also provides great power for the community as they can say that we designed and we implemented this to benefit ourselves. And for we as researchers, it increases the relevance of our interventions or our ideas for the community or the end users. It also helps to tailor the program to the end users' needs. And it's also a very good way to spur innovation, think outside the box, because you have opportunity to have ideas and input from a variety of people with diverse backgrounds and expertise. It also enhances the relationship between the communities and the researchers, as the community members are not engaged as subjects of the research, but rather as partners in the research process. And one of the key things is that it's ethically imperative that you do actually use participatory research methods. And it brings joy to everyone who is able to participate in it. Next slide. Next. So, I'm not sure why it takes so long for the slides to move, but some examples. I know a lot of you have been doing participatory health research for a very long time and have experience with different approaches to implementing participatory health research. And for those who are new, these are some examples of participatory health research methods that you can consider using in your own research. So you have community advisory boards, which I know a lot of you are already well familiar with because you've already used them in your own intervention programs development. We have crowdsourcing, under which Designathons is what we'll be discussing next. And then we have the use of co-creation or photo voice and prediction markets next. So for what we have talked about so far about community participatory health research methods, I have a question and I would want you to put your answers in the chat box. In the chat box, just type it in there. Do you think planning your research with an NGO or a community-based organization alone qualifies as a participatory research approach, and why? I would want to hear your thoughts on, from what I have said so far about what is participatory health research and the types of participatory health research out there that you can use. Do you think that planning your research with an NGO or a community-based organization alone qualifies as a participatory research approach, and why? Please feel free to type your answers in the chat box. I'll be reading them. Anyone have any thoughts about this? Someone says no because it doesn't include the cross-section of the stakeholders. Okay, no because it's not directly involving the community. It does not feel the joy in the correction bit, okay. It's a tokenism. Okay, so I think, thank you very much for sharing your ideas and your thoughts with me. I think we all agree that that alone is not sufficient to be considered a participatory research approach. It's definitely not a good representation of the whole community. And sometimes the NGOs that we work with are made up of experts rather than actual community members who are the end users you want to engage in your research. Next. Thank you very much for your answers. These are all very great answers. And yes, definitely it's not enough and it does not qualify as a full-scale participatory research method. So I have gone ahead to include the definition of the various examples of participatory health research methods that I mentioned in here and the functions that they are used for. And I think in the breakout room session or in the participatory session bits of this workshop, you're going to have the opportunity to have in-depth discussions about these types of methods with our experts that we have here. We're going to have a discussion session on community advisory boards, on crowdsourcing. And I want to take the opportunity to highlight crowdsourcing because it's what I'm going to talk a little more into in this session. And so for those of you who don't know, I know some of you have already used crowdsourcing. If you've ever used crowdsourcing as a research method, can you put like just a thumbs up in the chat box? I want to see how many of us have experience with crowdsourcing or other crowdsourcing methods. Yeah. Okay, I've seen one hand, one thumbs up. Yeah, so crowdsourcing is basically a bottom to top research approach to problem solving that harnesses the collective intelligence of a crowd to provide or to develop a solution to a particular problem and then report back to the community for implementation. And this is a bigger umbrella that includes different research approaches like designathons, hackathons, spring context, innovation contest, so many types of crowdsourcing out there. And the big idea with crowdsourcing is that it's a good way to generate innovative logos, images, videos, and also design new clinical services for tailored groups or specific groups of population. Next. Next slide, please. So the second slide also goes ahead to continue giving the explanations or the definitions of the other types of participatory health research methods and their functions. And like I said, you get the opportunity to discuss that more in the breakout room session. But I do have another question, which is, at what point can a researcher incorporate participatory elements into their research? And when should they actually do that? What do you guys think? At what point in the research planning, designing process can someone incorporate participatory elements into their study? And when should they actually incorporate it? Any thoughts? You can just type your answers in the chat box and then Fatima said at every stage, at the proposal, at every point from the very start. Okay. Throughout the whole process. Yes, exactly. Yes, since we all get the idea, the whole point of it being participatory is that it is not being designed by experts and then as an afterthought, you now bring in the community, but right from the conceptualization, I like that. Right from when you're bringing up or deciding on the concept, you could actually just pose the whole problem to the community and say, hey, this is a problem that we have identified. Can you all suggest solutions to this problem? And that becomes your open call stage to identifying what sort of intervention or what sort of program you want to develop. And then it takes you through the other processes. So yes, I think we all get the idea of what participatory research means to our research outcomes and when we should incorporate them in our study. Next slide. So since we have a bigger idea, we have a big overview of what this is about, I want to talk a little bit more about one of the key examples of crowdsourcing, which is designathons. And so I'm going to give a brief introduction of what are designathons and how they can be used in research and the benefits to them. Next. So one of the reasons why I love Designathons is that it is that platform where you are able to work within the spur of the moment. Next slide, please. You work in the spur of the moment with a group of brilliant people with different backgrounds, and you come up with this innovative ideas to the problem that you wish to solve. No, go back one slide, please. To the problem that you want to solve, and you're able to choose what is the best for the community, and everyone gets to participate. And it's basically defined as a three-step process that starts with an open call session that leads to group work. Can you please go back to the next previous slide, please? So it starts with an open call session where you generate the ideas of what you want to do. Then you go into collaborative teamwork events, which could be a 72-hour marathon of working as teams to develop or generate ideas or design something new. And then most of the third stage of the follow-up where you actually implement the ideas you're able to generate or to develop during the collaborative team event session. Next. It has so many advantages for us as researchers because the open call stage enables you to identify new ideas and new people that could bring on very innovative solutions that you may have not thought of previously and it helps you to unearth the larger categories of crowdsourcing for specific outcomes that you're looking for. And then the organizers may also be interested in using this participatory action when they want to design a new app or a new program. And it also helps you to identify the community you want to engage and to have them as part of the planning and the implementation process, as well as the evaluation process. Next. Next slide, please. Like I said initially, Designathons are a three-stage process that starts with an open call. And here you are able to determine the overall purpose of the Designathon, what exactly you are hoping to achieve, what solution you're hoping to develop. And then you go to the second stage, which is the collaborative teamwork stage, where you design and develop whatever you have talked about in the the ideas you have generated in the open call. And then you go to the follow-up where you actually implement this. And this strategy, whilst it's a good bottom-to-top approach to developing innovation, may have some risk, and these are some of the ways you can mitigate them. There could be a lack of follow-through after the event. Like a lot of people may bring up some ideas on good ideas of what to do, but then the researchers may not have a plan on how they're actually going to implement this. And this could dwindle or reduce the trust of the community in the research. So it is better to always make sure you build a structured plan of how you plan to implement the research or the ideas that are generated before you actually organize it. You also may have insufficient interest in the open call because there may be so many factors that may hinder the outcome of the open call. Some people may not have time, or your reporting opportunities may not be much. The type of incentives that you're offering may not be relevant to the target population. So you need to think about all these things and make sure you leverage all your networks to promote your open call to make sure you get sufficient submissions. And there may be inequalities in the process, and it is best to make sure you engage or you include the end users in your steering committee, in your judging committee, in your mentoring panel. Make sure that the communities or the end users are incorporated or included in all aspects of your planning. And then there may be a digital divide, which is if you rely solely on using digital platforms for reporting and for everything, you may lose a population, part of the population that may not be comfortable with the digital services or the use of digital devices. And hence, it is better to make sure you create different pathways for both in-person and then in-person and online participation for your participants. Next. So as part of your ways to make sure when you're planning your Designathon, you have to think about, before I go to what to think about when you're planning, like I've already said, Designathons have a lot of benefits, just like participatory health research. It actually elevates people from marginalized backgrounds, and it's opportunity for their voices to be heard. And I like this very much, especially for what we did in Nigeria with the For You by Youth HIV self-testing program, where we used the Designathon to be able to develop a HIV self-testing program for the youth. And this was led by youth whose typically their voices would not be heard in the AIDS control program, where they wouldn't even have the opportunity to speak up. And through the Designathon, you're able to get their inputs into whatever is being designed. It is also pro-social. It reduces disparities. It leverages your network because you have to promote what you are doing, and you form new partnership with your people that participate, and then you are able to also spur innovation. And above all, it is fun. You get to work with people of different backgrounds, of different expertise, and hear what they are doing in their fields as well. Next. So before you go ahead to decide that you want to do a designathon, these are some of the things you would want to think about and ask yourself, what exactly is this research for? What problem are you hoping to solve? Trying to develop an app? Are you trying to develop a new intervention program? Are you developing a data analysis plan? What exactly are you doing? And after you have narrowed down what you are doing and what your expected outcome is, you have to ask yourself, is Designathon what you really need? And this is very important, because if you have a very long time to generate new ideas, definitely you could go with a bigger crowdsourcing and then use the Designathon later. Or if you have a short time and you need to generate ideas within 72 hours or something, is Designathon really the best way to go about it? You have to also know, if you decide you want to do a Designathon, when do you want to do it? Where do you want to do it? How long should it take? And then are you doing this in person or online? And above all this is going to depend on how much money you have available to do your to carry out your research. Next. Once you have been able to figure all these things or this particular aspect out and decided that yes, Designathon is what you want to do, you need to know some of these things. Who is going to be part of your mentoring group? Who is going to be part of your judging panel? Who are your participants going to be? And you have to be able to discuss all your strategies and your ideas, set up your steering committee. Who should you contact? How many groups can you host, and all that. You have to think about all these things. So I have listed some things to know about your judging and mentoring group versus what you should know about your participants here for you. Next slide. Next. In addition to the things you need to know, here's a material checklist that I think if you keep this on hand and you follow them, it will help you to run or organize a successful Designathon. And the first thing is to read the Designathon practical guide. I know a lot of us try to avoid this step because we believe we can learn as we go along, but please read the Designathon practical guide. I have included the link to the PDF there. It is the standardized practical guide to help you organize your Designathon successfully. Read it, know what a Designathon is actually about and what you need before you actually go ahead and start planning it. You can't go back to it as an afterthought because you may have already missed some important steps. In addition to the checklist, I want to give you some few practical tips to think about in implementing your Designathon. Next, we'll make the slides available on our website at the end of the presentation. You can always take your time to read each slide. I have made sure to provide enough explanation on each slide for you. And like I said initially, you have to think about where you want to do it, on how you want to do your Designathon, and what form of Designathon you want to hold. You can do it offline, where everyone comes to a particular venue and work in groups, like we did with the For You by Youth Designathon. You can do a whole online one, which was very useful during like the COVID time, where when you have limited funds available and people cannot travel from further places to your meeting point. So you can do a hybrid, where people within the local where you're organizing it can meet in person, and those who are far from where you are can join online. I think Zoom, Teams meeting, and there are so many meeting platforms out there that you can harness to your advantage if you want to do a hybrid form of a Designathon. Next, you also have to make sure that after you have decided what sort of designathon method format you want to host, you plan out your designathon. You have to know what activities you want to implement on each day, how many days it's going to last. Pre-event activities should include identifying your key group leaders, how many the group leaders to set up group chat, how do they contact their group members, who is going to be your technical support team, and all that. You have to make sure all these things are set. And for those of you who are more interested in learning more about how to organize a designathon, you can join the designathon breakout rooms for the breakout room session where you go more into what designathons are and how to organize them successfully next. So the last few slides basically just give you a little more insights on the practical tips to note when you're organizing or planning a designathon and what not to do to ensure that you organize your designathon successfully. Next slide, please. I have also included some open access resource materials that you could read at your leisure times to make sure it provides you with adequate information on your research methods. And it's not only limited to designathons, but also to participatory health research methods as a whole. For different types of participatory research methods, we have included some links and website references also for you to be able to access and read more on your own. So this is an example of an agenda that we drew for a designathon that held here in China. Next. Can we move towards the open resource materials? Next slide, please. Yeah, so this is also very important. Let me talk a bit about this. Think about your logistics for the event. A lot of times when we plan, we forget to have backup plans for our plans. So if you're going to do any presentations, make sure that you have a standby laptop in case the one you want to originally use is not working. Have batteries in case your microphone dies. Have a technical team that will be responsible for coordinating logistics for venue, for food, for materials that will be used during the training, during the designathon workshop. And make sure you have all these things in place, a coordination team, a technical support team, a steering committee, a judgment panel, a mentorship panel. These are the teams that are going to help you to be able to organize your designathon successfully. So like I mentioned, these are the access to various open access resources that could help you. Read the crowdsourcing practical guide, as well as the participatory health research practical guide on designathons. And there are some publications also. I think Dr. Taka posts some publications in the chat box that you can also reference. We have also sent you Word documents with a list of materials that you can also read in addition to this. Next slide. So I think today I wouldn't waste a lot of our time for the first session. Basically, this just gives us a brief idea what are participatory health research methods and why are they important and why we need to incorporate them in our research, and also talk a little bit about what is designathons as part of crowdsourcing and how to use them to generate good and innovative social interventions for our communities. I want to take this opportunity to thank my team so much for helping to put this together. Thank you all for everyone that was helping with the co-creation of these materials, to my moderators, as well as to the technical support team. I really appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you very much. Next, so we finished with the first part of the lecture, which is more about just introducing everything. And we're going to go into a second aspect where it's a participatory research method. And if you have any questions about what we have mentioned today or what I have talked about today, I recommend that you join the participatory health research breakout room where you'll be able to ask. We have a Q&A session with Dr. Taka on participatory health research. I would recommend everyone to check your, don't answer them yes. When it is launched, we are going to launch a pool, a Zoom pool. Please pick one group that you are really interested in. Like I said, we're going to have experts in each of these breakout rooms to give in-depth discussions on the topic. So we're going to have a session on crowdsourcing, For those who have never used crowdsourcing, you want to know what it is and how to use it, join the crowdsourcing experts discussion. For those interested more in community advisory boards, you can join the expert discussion and ask some relevant questions to your research on how to engage or establish your community advisory boards. If you are interested in co-creation, what is co-creation? What is how is it done? How do you organize it? I would recommend that you join the co-creation expert discussion. And for those who have questions from my presentation in the last 20 minutes, please go ahead and join the participatory health research Q&A session. And once you move to your breakout rooms, remember that it's an interactive session. So everyone has the opportunity to ask your questions and make sure that you are engaged in the whole process and you benefit. If you want to take notes, feel free to do that. We'll be, although we'll be providing the slides, there will be no materials from the breakout rooms uploaded on our website. So please take notes for yourself. Your other bots may not be able to follow you into your breakout rooms. So if you want to take a pen or a pencil to jot down 1 or 2 points, I would advise that and I would recommend that you do that. If you stay in the bigger meeting, we have something else all together to do after this session. And thank you very much for joining me today. And after our breakout room, we will not be coming back into the meeting. I'm really grateful for you, for your presence, and I look forward to meeting you in our next session next week for those who I would not be seeing after the breakout room. Thank you. So during the second phase of the participatory research, participatory activities, please make sure you change your names, your username in the Zoom to a recognizable name so that it can be easy to call on you if you want to say something or if you want to give an input. Like I said, you will not be able to go with your other bot, so please take a pen or a paper to take notes of what you want to do. And yes, for the next 20 minutes, we're going to use that to have in-depth discussions on crowdsourcing, community advisory boards, co-creation, and then participatory health research. Okay. If you have not completed the Zoom poll, please do that now. Okay.
And do we get automatically pulled in, or after Yusha assigns everyone, then we'll go?
So everyone who completed the Zoom would automatically be pulled into their breakout room. But if you have any difficulty and you are not automatically pulled in, just notify Yusha or Zishran, and they would help move you manually to your breakout rooms. And for the moderators, you can join your breakout rooms directly as well.
Great. Thanks, Gifty.
Thank you. If you have any difficulties with your, you cannot move yourself, please just type it in the chat box and somebody will come to your aid.
And Yusha, now might be good to go ahead and
Yes.
Okay.
people into.
Thank you.
Just putting your responses in is not gonna. Sorry, guys.
Yusha, we are going to launch the breakout rooms now, so.
Yeah, I have launched the breakout rooms now. So
Okay.
I think for people have choose their preference, they will be automatically assigned to their group. Yeah, and I think there are still like the 30% of people will stay in the main room.
Okay.
Hi, Isha. I cannot click the poll. So would you please assign me to the
moderators,
co-creation?
you cannot do right now. You can just
You
direct
can,
it on.
guys, if you just go to breakout rooms and then look under the rooms, and then if it says 4 rooms, and then you should click on join your specific room. Does that make sense?
Yes. Please, all the moderators, go directly to breakout rooms, choose your breakout room and move there. Thank you. Technical support, please join your moderators in your breakout rooms as well. Yusha, you can leave me now. I'll share screen myself.
Okay, so I will join NIE's group.
Yes, thank
Sure.
you. Chunyin, have
Thank
you found
you.
your room? Hi, okay, so those who are stuck here with me, if you still want to move to a breakout room, just let me know and I'll do that. Okay, can you all see my screen? Can you see my screen?
Sure.
Okay.
I just set a function to enable each of our breakout room to share the screen at the same time. So can you share the screen? Do we need to have a test of it?
Huh? I've moved myself.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, I don't know why it's not loud enough. We're not hearing.
Oh,
I
sorry.
am,
Can you
I'm
hear
Can
me?
hearing
you
you
raise
loud.
your voice? We're not hearing.
I'm hearing you loud and clear. Maybe you need to
Yeah,
increase
but
your.
I'm not hearing.
NAE, can you open your sound? Can you see something?
Yes.
Yeah, we are now in the breakout room, so
Yes.
we are gonna have a discussion about crowdsourcing, and Dr. NAE will lead this discussion. So it's about a part of our participatory small group activities after our previous lecture. So yes, so it's over to you, Dr. NAE.
Thank you very much, Gifty, and hi, everyone. Welcome to the expert views on crowdsourcing. I think we have all the functions enabled here as well. It's a discussion, it's not a lecture, it's very participatory and engaging. So I'd like for us to just chat about crowdsourcing very informally, really. If you've used crowdsourcing before, if you've had experiences implementing a crowdsourcing study or project, would like to hear your views. If you're entirely new to crowdsourcing and you still want to gain more information, more insight, learn a bit more about crowdsourcing, very welcome to ask questions. Like I said, it's very informal. Feel free to raise your hand or type in your questions or your comments in the chat. But first of all, I'd like to have an idea on how familiar we are with crowdsourcing. So maybe put in the chat box a thumbs up or a yes if you've ever used crowdsourcing methods. So I've been involved in a crowdsourcing project, a crowdsourcing study. Can we see the numbers? And if you have not, just say no. So if you've been involved in crowdsourcing, yes. If not, no. So let's kind of gain, okay. Wow, lots of no's. Okay. Wow. Not even 1 yes. Come on, we have the crowdsourcing guys here. None? Okay, 1 yes from Isha, that's you, Sesh, yeah? No. Wow. If you're just joining, let us know in the chat if you've used crowdsourcing or if you're familiar with crowdsourcing. Okay. So far, I think it's just me and Yusha. All right, so there's a lot of people new to crowdsourcing. So why do I have the feeling that I have to talk a lot today? All right. It's a very easy concept. I like to tell people like I don't like to be stressed with research, so I go with the easy route. So I like to think crowdsourcing is one of those easy methodologies. As the name suggests. So today we're going to be doing a lot of self-directed learning. I'm going to be trying to pull out your own understanding of crowdsourcing, having not implemented crowdsourcing. So feel free to, again, type in the chat or raise your hands. What comes to mind? I mean, if we were part of the initial lecture by Dr. Mali a few minutes ago, we would have gotten some sort of introductory ideas to crowdsourcing. So by raise of hand, on mute, or in the chat, what comes to mind when you hear the word crowdsourcing? Basically, it's a combination of two words, crowd and source. But what do we think crowdsourcing is? I'll share screen if I have to, just to put some context to certain aspects. But what do we think crowdsourcing is? Oh, thank you, Chielu. I'm quite familiar with crowdsourcing. That's great. So I have a co-lead here. Okay. Anyone? What comes to mind? What is crowdsourcing?
You can give it a try.
Thank you, Joel. Go for it.
Yes, yes. So crowdsourcing, I would say it's maybe an activity or an approach to seek maybe some advice or some input from specific crowds, some input or activities that may be relevant to a particular crowd.
Yes, exactly. Thank you very much. It's actually seeking ideas, information, strategies, solutions from the crowd. And thanks to those who are populating the chats with some responses. So I think Yusha is saying people from different industry brainstorming together to solve problems. Maria has said gathering ideas from a target group, similar to what Jewel has said. Emily is saying it's leveraging knowledge, ideas, and experiences from lots of people. So all of this is correct. As the name simply suggests, crowdsourcing is sourcing ideas, solutions, interventions, innovations, whatever the case may be, but from the crowd, from the public. But we do have an official definition. So crowdsourcing has been defined according to the CDR practical guide. The link was shared in the main lecture we just had now. So we have a practical guide on crowdsourcing for health and health research, and it's officially defined as soliciting or requesting ideas from the public and then sharing back the solutions, open access back to the public. So I like to think crowdsourcing is in two parts. The first part is actually collecting ideas from the public and then giving back. So those ideas are ultimately used to inform a health intervention or a health solution. And there's always that second part of giving back. So with crowdsourcing, you don't just source the solution for personal use. It's always open access, always for the community and for the greater good of the public. So I hope that brings us to a fair understanding of what crowdsourcing is. And interestingly, a lot of times we've been using crowdsourcing in health and health research. Now, I want to find out, is anyone here interested or thinking about or would be willing to implement crowdsourcing anytime soon in their projects, in their research going forward? So I know how, okay. Yes. Okay. Okay, so crowdsourcing, okay, that's good. So crowdsourcing do have stages, but given the fact that crowdsourcing is actually soliciting ideas from the public and then sharing back, what do we think are some of the key aspects or the key steps if you want to implement a crowdsourcing? Say, for instance, you're going somewhere new, you're on holiday and you're going to a town you've never been to before, probably you're on your own and you're going on your own, you don't have company and you want to find out like, what should I do? What should I bring with me? Where should I visit? What are some of the things that you would do if you want to crowdsource information for your trip? Like just, I'm trying to make it very simple. So what are some of the steps or some of the things that you think you need to think about or you need to do if you're thinking of implementing crowdsourcing? Let's hear from you guys and then I can share some more formal steps according to the practical guidance. Feel free again to unmute and chat your ideas or put them in the chat. Nduka says develop a questionnaire. Yes, yes, very importantly, that's your survey.
Identify key components of human resource that can participate right from beginning all the way to the end.
Yes, we talked about that as well, participating from beginning. So bringing in the communities right from the start all through. Think of your team members, get acquainted with the community. Yes, you want to reach out to the community, you want to get familiar with them. If you're going to be asking them for ideas to contribute or to give you solutions, then you want, of course, to be familiar with them. Identify who has the knowledge, insights that you could include. Exactly. A lot of us mentioned target population. So you want to look at who is your focus group and who will be most appropriate to sort of contribute the solutions or the needs to your crowdsourcing open call. Yes, Munawa has responded to a question. Someone said, yes, it's absolutely important in Latin America. Okay. Yes, so a lot of us are correct there. Maybe I could quickly share screen and take us through the main steps of crowdsourcing, so we can see that. So it's not just all talk. I'll share briefly and then I'll stop sharing. Okay, can we all see the slides now? So these are the steps for crowdsourcing. So first of all, you want to organize a community steering group. And what we mean by community steering group is bringing together everyone who's a stakeholder and involved in that particular project, a study, or whatever intervention you're looking to develop. People who are involved in providing the solution, people who are users of the solution, people who can create the solution. So everyone who's a stakeholder has a voice. So that's creating a community steering group and obviously balancing diversity. So people from different backgrounds, different settings, different income levels should be represented to have a more representative steering group, because this is the group that would sort of give feedback, advise, and sort of guide the direction of the crowdsourcing open call. So you can include your local community members, it could include doctors if it's a health condition, community-based leaders. Initially in the previous group, we said communities alone do not make a participatory health research. So you can see other people. So network leaders, all of these can come into your organized steering group. So that's the very first step. Now, once you have that group formed, secondly, you want to engage with your local community. Sorry, someone said in the chat, you need to familiarize yourself with the community. So this is it. You want to engage, and doing so, you're then promoting and letting people know that, hey, we're actually collecting ideas, we're collecting information or solutions to sort of create such intervention. So it's engaging with the community to contribute their ideas or to send in their submissions and entries. And this would be reaching out through community members. You can provide feedback on half-formed ideas. You need to clarify why you're doing this, what exactly you're requesting. And we do this using two strategies, basically online, where you promote using social media channels. You could use them using blog posts, news channels, email networks, or you could do it in person, where you go to community events, you go to marketplaces, you go to busy malls and tell people, you go to schools, you go to offices, depending on where you have your population of interest. Once you've done your promotion, typically for a timed period, maybe 4 weeks, 1 month, 2 months, you want to close their promotion and engagement and begin to evaluate. That brings you to the third step. You want to review everything that has come through. does this relate to what I want? Is it relevant? Does it tick the boxes? Can I use it going forward for my solution based on what people have sent to me? Is it going to be helpful for what I want? So that's the evaluation. And typically you pull together a few people who would serve as judges, give them like a criteria and a score sheet so they can sort of review the submissions fairly and evenly. And once that has been done, you want to look at the scoring, the grading system, and recognize finalists. So finalists are those people who actually contribute exceptional, innovative, and compelling ideas that actually score a very high benchmark score. It could be 80%, it could be 70%, or as the case may be. So you recognize them by announcing them as your open call champions or your crowdsourcing champions. This could be on social media. You provide incentives like prizes. And then finally, as I was saying, you share your solutions or you implement back to the communities. So these are the sort of 5 key steps of the crowdsourcing. If you look at the crowdsourcing practical guide that's referenced here, I think they've put the link in the chat as well. You'll find all of these key steps there. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing now and come back to the discussions. So now I'm going to ask, looking at the steps, we've talked about what crowdsourcing is. We've talked about what it takes or what are the steps to crowdsourcing. I'm going to stop talking for a bit now, and I want to hear from you. What do we think some of the benefits, the benefits of crowdsourcing? How is it different from the conventional research approach where you have experts come together, design a project, implement the projects, and then just, you know, go ahead and watch out for sustainability and all of that? How is crowdsourcing different, and what are some of the unique benefits of crowdsourcing? Over to you.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Hello.
Yes, go ahead, please.
All right. So
there's like an echo. But go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. So one of the greatest benefit of crowdsourcing, if the steps are followed well, is that the community will have absolute confidence in what the outcome will be. They will feel that they have been totally involved. It is something they've contributed to, and they won't see it as something that has just been dropped onto them to accept.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Manawa. That's one of, I think one of the highest points of crowdsourcing is the fact that there is that community ownership, the fact that they've contributed, they have ownership to the resulting solution. And Benjamin, please, your hand is raised. Go ahead, unmute and share your ideas.
Yes, thank you very much. Having built some level of confidence in the process, interacting with everybody, it will definitely and unequivocally lead to sustainability of interventions. So the key thing here is we have started, we have interacted, but sustainability will be what we have to look up onto right from the beginning all the way to the end. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Absolutely. Again, so in addition to ownership, community ownership, there's sustainability. So these are our ideas. This is what we contributed. So we don't want to see it die. The community would inadvertently do everything within their power to sort of sustain and keep that intervention. So it's typically more sustainable compared to traditional research methods. There are other benefits. Oh my gosh, benefits of crowdsourcing are so many. Can we hear some in the chat? Any? Community members are part of the parcel of innovation. Beautiful. Thank you, Chinelu. So innovation is one of the high points of crowdsourcing. Based on my experience using crowdsourcing, a lot of times we as academics, we as researchers, we have similar thoughts. We think alike. But when you go out into the communities, you sort of get this array of innovation, like it's more like thinking outside the box. So people come with all sorts of ideas that we sort of put together, and it's definitely way more innovative than traditional researchers. Menawa is also typing, researchers can tap into creativity. Yes, creativity, part of innovation, and diverse perspective, absolutely. Resources can be mobilized easily. Exactly. So there's diverse talents. Like if we were just researchers, we would have to go through implementers, we have to go through policies makers, we have to go through regulatory bodies. But when you do crowdsourcing, if you look at your very first step, when it says organize a community steering group, you want to pick someone from all of these groups, like a representative. So when you come to your implementation, come to your rollouts, you already have like representatives championing your cause. So it definitely mobilizes resources and makes everything easier. Great. There's still a lot more with crowdsourcing. But should I just ask Yusha, do we have time? How much more time do we have in our breakout room, and when are we expected to go back?
Yeah, well, actually, we don't have any limitation on the time. So if you want to have some more discussion on this topic, so just feel free to have it. So yeah.
Okay, so I know we are at the top of the hour, but there's just so much. This is an introduction to crowdsourcing. If you want to stay a bit more for the discussions, please do well to stay. We can chat a bit more about types of crowdsourcing, examples, and then their questions. So I'm conscious of the fact that I have been talking a lot more about crowdsourcing, what it is, how to implement it, the steps, the benefits. Now, for those of us who may not be familiar with crowdsourcing, do we have questions? I think now it's a good time to pause and maybe ask a bit more from those who are willing to, who are just here and learning about crowdsourcing for the first time. Do you have questions? Are there areas you're not very clear, or what exactly is it you're thinking about crowdsourcing that you want more clarification on? Maybe we can chat on those. Muna is chatting a bit more about benefits of crowdsourcing. Do you want to unmute and share a bit more? And if you have questions, please put them in the chat and we'll take them as the discussions go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, crowdsourcing and research also, it includes access to a wide range of skills and knowledge, and the ability to gather large amount of data quickly, because you are involving a substantial number of community members. And it's also cost effective. You do not have to go from house to house, rather the community members are part of the wider study. So it's quite cost effective. However, there are, like you did mention, there are some few challenges with crowdsourcing, which has to do with the difficulty in ensuring the quality of data, then also maintaining participant engagement, which is also one of the limitations of crowdsourcing. Yeah, over.
Thank you so much, Munawa. You've sort of touched on some points for further discussions. There are some questions and comments in the chat, so maybe I'll take those and then I'll come back to one of the points you raised, Munawa. Nduka is saying, so what are the challenges and how do we overcome? I think Munawa just touched on a few of them. So some of the challenges with crowdsourcing is that sometimes you may not be able to sufficiently engage the public and the crowd, and then you don't get enough quality submissions or ideas or contributions to then lead to your innovation. How do you determine the number of submissions are acceptable for a given study? So with crowdsourcing, it's very qualitative, and we don't deal on numbers, so to say. It's not quant, it's more qual as a method, as a research method, it's more qualitative. So we don't typically deal on the numbers, but we deal on the quality of the submissions. So you could launch a crowdsourcing open call and get 100 submissions that do not actually respond or answer to your crowdsourcing question or what you're trying to solve. In another open call, you can get just 5 or 10 submissions, but they are top quality. And with those submissions, you're actually able to develop a solution or an intervention. So with crowdsourcing, it's less about the numbers and more about the quality. Can crowdsourcing be applied to all types of research? Absolutely. We've seen crowdsourcing being employed in diverse fields, in engineering, in arts, social sciences, in health, which is where we are. Yes, so crowdsourcing, it's an everyday mechanism. It's like I said, you're going for a holiday and you type on Google or social media, hey, I'm going to the Maldives. What's the fun things to do? What's the best place to go? What's the nice foods to try? And people just comment on your feed. So that's crowdsourcing. So it's applicable everywhere, anywhere, any field. I think I'm missing some questions. I just hope, please, Munawa, help me as well if I miss anything. Maria is saying, I wonder if I could ask a question about Designathon. We are planning one, and I'm thinking, absolutely. So crowdsourcing is a subset of a Designathon, or Designathon is a subset, sorry, it's a subset of crowdsourcing, but crowdsourcing is one of the stages of the Designathon. They go hand in hand. So please feel free. Do you want to unmute? I didn't read your questions, but do you want to unmute and share a bit more and ask your question, Maria?
Yeah, sure, thank you. No, but I'm curious about the last step, the implementation part, and I know the lecturer also discussed that a little bit during the previous session, but I find it a bit difficult, like how to think about the implementation part. If you have any suggestion on how to think about that, or if others have any experience on how you have gone about, because I think it's really important that they feel like that their ideas are taken somewhere into account and implemented, or even maybe taken into research or so. But yeah, how have you done previously?
Okay, thank you. Munawa, do you want to go?
Yeah, I just want to highlight briefly on what she said. I think like you did indicate, Designathon is a subset of crowdsourcing. Designathons are quite time-bound, unlike crowdsourcing, which is more like an ongoing process. Then also, Designathons have a more structured format with set goals, with timelines, as I indicated, and then often a competitive element, whereas crowdsourcing can be more like an open and then sort of flexible kind of thing. We may not be able to cover the entirety of Designathon, but then these are some of the few things you would have to consider: the timeline, the structure, then also the outcome that your expected outcome. So they will all influence on how you plan your Designathon.
Thank you so much, Munawa. That's super helpful. Benjamin, I see your hand is raised. I'll come to you next. I'll just touch on what Munawa has said for Maria. So in my experience of Designathons, I'm actually wearing one of our Designathon shirts. Yeah. Yeah, so for Designathon, you're quite interested in the last part. So for the first part, you prepare, you get ideas, you crowdsource, prepare with the people, and then the second phase is the intensive 2 or 3 days or 1.5 days, where you put people in groups and they come together and they actually design. They sort of go over, work over, mull over the ideas, and at the end of that intensive phase, over 48 to 72 hours, you have like formed ideas. The third phase now is actually follow up and implementation, where you have your questions. So with that, depending on the structure and the format and what you're designing, so to speak, what your outcome of the Designathon is, in certain instances, we've sort of organized follow-ups with these groups to see, okay, where do we take these ideas next? How do you see them being implemented? With regards to implementation, there's always resources needed, right? There's always cost implication. So in research, a lot of times implementation would actually see us actually applying for more grants and probably continuing the research to see what's feasible, or just taking some based on what's available to do a pilot, or even taking these ideas to like external stakeholders to say, this is what we designed out. What are your thoughts in terms of implementation? All of this counts towards follow-up. but ultimately it's taking these ideas and actually trying to make a change, either in policy or in practice. And if that means future research, if that means applying for grants or looking for funding or leveraging existing resources within your institution to sort of use those ideas to make a change. I think that's, but it does take time. It's not like the intensive phase, like 2 or 3. It takes time. Sometimes, depending on what you want to see and what you're actually designing, it could be 3 months, it could be 6 months, it could be up to a year or even more. But the output is that you're actually taking these ideas to the next stage. We have a couple of hands on and a few questions in the chat. But Benjamin, I said I'll come to you next, so I'll stick to my word. Do you want to unmute and go, please?
Yes, thank you very much. I won't be very long, but all that you have tried to explain show that crowdsourcing requires a very strong element of audience segmentation, because that is when you have said we are not so interested in quantity as we are on quality. To accentuate that quality component, and audience segmentation becomes very necessary. Then you will define the capacities or the skills embedded in all the crowd that we have sourced, and then deploy them in the implementation aspect based on skill set and all other experiences and capabilities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, that's a very valuable point. Yeah, like I said, quality, and quality actually comes with reaching out to the right audience. So if you're trying to create an intervention for people living with diabetes, I think it's actually looking out for people living with diabetes, people who treat diabetic patients, or people who provide diabetic care services. So these are the people that would actually give you that quality submissions. Someone who has no idea about diabetes or who has no experiences living with the disease will be able to give you less unless they go and do research. So you're actually right there. We have a couple of hands raised. I'll go according to my screen. I think I have Nduka next, and then I'll come to Gloria.
All right, thank you so much. I want to align with the last speaker, Benjamin, when I talked about segmentation. But I want to give a scenario. We're talking about social innovation. Now, you have identified a cause in a rural area. And in these rural areas, they are not so much educated, and sometimes they don't even know the solution to the problem. And then you are going to the community to do crowdsourcing, knowing their capacities, knowing their limitations. How do you come up with because you can segment them, and at the end of the day, you will still stumble, you will not even get solution to what you want because of naive and the quality of the standard of people there, educational wise, because a lot of the problems we have today are mainly in the rural areas, and we need some innovative ideas to address them. Now, these people don't even have a fair knowledge of what they even want and how you can solve the problems. What do you do?
Thank you very much. So the question is, how do we engage communities? The truth is, every voice counts, irrespective of the fact that they are in rural communities. They might not have the education and the research expertise to think, oh, this is what will actually solve the solution. But they come in. This is where we then brand crowdsourcing as co-development, co-production, and co-creation. Do not forget that irrespective of the fact that they may not have the solution on their fingertips, they are the ones that would be the end users. They would be the direct beneficiaries. And as such, they have a say in how they want the solution. How do they want it? So even if we think this is the gap, this is the problem, and this is what will solve it. Maybe it's a village where there is no clean water and the children suffer from cholera, dysentery. So we're thinking of providing clean, safe drinking water. How do you want it? Do you want a tap in a community center where everybody goes, or do you want us to create purifying machines by the river or the stream where they go and fetch water? How they want the solution and how best they want to use it can be captured into the crowdsourced ideas. So they come in as co-producers and co-designers or co-developers in the solution. So they might not develop, but they would give you feedback on how they want it, which is where typically community voices come in. And then ultimately, we try to amplify their voices by giving them other roles, like to sit in the steering committee. Even when we do dissemination, we also get them to get involved in dissemination in their local practices. And even sometimes we bring them as co-authors on manuscripts. I hope that answers your question, Nduka, or kind of sheds some light.
Exactly.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm glad. Gloria, over to you.
Yeah, I think my question has a bit of the funding component and a bit of the quality components. So for instance, we really usually have like a fixed time. Maybe we are running this for like 2 months, right? To do an open call or to do a design-a-thon. So then do you fix a number that, okay, we want 50 submissions, right? And that when, we get that 50, that is quality, we close it, or we just wait till, the whole time passes before we end, this. And then in terms of like funding, especially because of timing, how much, are even participants compensated, right, for these entries that they are bringing in? So then is it only those who bring in an entry that meets the requirement, that is quality, that are compensated, or anybody that, submits, because then they have put in some work one way or the other to put in? So those were some of my thoughts, like my questions around this.
Okay. Thank you very much. Yes, so I'm going to take your questions one after the other. So in terms of the number of submissions, like putting a benchmark number, typically we wouldn't, because you're not sure how it will go. So like I said, again, we look at the quality, but if you feel you've gotten enough quality submissions, in terms of time, there is no need extending. If you can work with what you have, you close the open call and you go ahead, analyze your data, and go ahead with creating your solutions. In terms of costs and rewarding participants, what we tend to do is we give out acknowledgements to everyone who has participated, irrespective of the grading, irrespective of the quality of submission. It's more like a thank you, because it's an effort to actually look at your open call or engage with your promotion and think of, oh, I want to be part of this, and then preparing a submission and actually submitting. So for that effort, for that engagement, for that interest, we do a general thank you email, very nice, on behalf of the team, on behalf of the steering committee. We say thank you. Sometimes we do like branded certificates for participation. So everybody feels like what they've given, their time, their contribution has been acknowledged, it has counted. But for those who has gone the extra mile to submit an exceptional idea that then goes into developing the intervention, we do have selected prizes. Now, we didn't talk about prices because I was hoping I would throw that back as a question, because there was a question that says, how do you address people not being interested or being engaged? Is your gifts and your prizes, because those are the incentives. So you look at the target population. In times where we've worked with student groups, we've sort of had prizes like vouchers to books or like electronic gadgets like a computer, an iPad. These are things that students would ultimately use. So it depends on the focus group. So we do have prizes that's for people who have contributed exceptionally. That's why we have a benchmark score. When you grade all the submissions, you can put your benchmark at 70% or 80%, and the number of entries that actually hit that benchmark score then emerge as finalists, and ultimately their ideas will go into the solution. Most times we do gift vouchers, or sometimes it can be monetary as well, because with money then everybody can do whatever they want to do with it. But it's depends on, again, the sort of size and capacity of your open call. If it's a small project, then obviously your prizes would be really minor things that sort of get people excited. You're not looking to change a whole institution or change someone's life with the prize. But yeah, it's just a token to say thank you. We see you, we hear you, we appreciate you. Yeah. Do we have more questions? Can you unmute your mic and ask your questions? Thank Munawa. If you still have questions, please feel free. There's one question I've been waiting for someone to ask, but I haven't seen it. We haven't explored all of the benefits of crowdsourcing. Are there additional benefits? What does it cost to implement a crowdsourcing open call? Thoughts? Now I'm going to ask the question. Thoughts? Feel free to unmute. Feel free to type in the chat. Based on all of our discussion, do you think it's very expensive? Do you need a huge grant to implement crowdsourcing, or what are your thoughts around crowdsourcing and costs?
I think it pays for itself in the long run. I say this because, for instance, I'm thinking of it in terms of the research that I do, that is HIV prevention, specifically primary prevention. So if I'm looking at trying to crowdsource maybe something for HIV self-testing or, pre-exposure prophylaxis, that's PrEP, and, I am being able to crowdsource like maybe ideas or flyers or images or messages, those, and that is going to, at the end of the day, it's something people can connect to, then it does, pay for itself at the end of the day. I just think that, yeah, maybe, setting up, maybe if you're doing it in person, the cost of, bringing a large crowd, a large number of people, the compensation, the food, the drinks, all of those things, kind of there's that cost to it, but I feel like you gain more out of it, so it does end up paying for itself in that way. That is my thought.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to add cost effectiveness to the very many benefits of crowdsourcing. I'm very biased when it comes to crowdsourcing because I live for crowdsourcing. Anyway, yes, just as Gloria has said, to be honest, it paid for itself. And if you have the only thing you need to think of is how best you can compensate or provide prizes for exceptional entries. Because if you look at crowdsourcing from start to finish, you could basically run it on 0 grants or 0 seed or 0 funding, because your community group you convene is typically on volunteer time. It's people who are typically engaged and interested and really passionate about the topic. So they don't mind giving 30 minutes to 1 hour a month to talk about and contribute ideas on your project. So it's volunteer crowd steering committee. Even when you promote, sometimes it's you just putting out a Twitter post, it's you sending a bunch of emails, it's you going on a WhatsApp group and saying, hey, this is an idea. You could create your submission form. Someone talked about a questionnaire where you can collect ideas, get people to submit. You could do that free on Google Forms. There's a lot of SurveyMonkey. There's a lot of free platforms on there. So promotion, that's free. Even judging, you can get a few people from your steering committee who are still passionate about the topic or the area to volunteer that time and judge as well. So there is, the only thing I would say you think about is the prizes. And even for prizes, there are other ways you can compensate people who submit exceptional calls. So they can be named, they will be announced as champions, they would be named on publications, they will be named on the final output as co-producers or co-investigators, as the case may be. So even if there is no huge grants to implement, you can run a crowdsourcing open call. Gloria was raising a point about maybe if you're doing something in person, bringing people physically together. So all of those costs associated with logistics, getting the venue, entertainment, if you want to do tea and coffee, your biscuits and all of that. But hey, crowdsourcing can be run from start to finish entirely online. That was how we stayed relevant and engaged during COVID. When the entire world shut down, most of our projects continued because we had our crowdsourcing contest run completely online. And in certain cases, we also do global crowdsourcing open calls. So it's a global problem, it's of global relevance, and we are receiving submissions from across the globe. You can't meet in one country or in one particular location. So everything is entirely online. In that case, you're spending zero costs on like venue and in-person logistics as well. So I'd like to add costs and cost effectiveness to one of the very many benefits of crowdsourcing. Any other inspirations? I think we've been talking for too long. I'm going to stop talking now. The link to the practical guide has been shared again by Munawa. Thank you very much. If you have questions, please do well to share or reach out afterwards. But if not, I think we'll be closing the session. Have a look at the guide. If you have any questions, do well to reach out to the organizing team. Let us know if you're interested in implementing crowdsourcing and you want to partner with us, or you want us on board to provide specific or strategic advice. We'll be very happy to do so. Munawa, do you have any other thoughts, or I can't see any more questions? Or any
Yeah, I think we have exhausted our time by an additional 30 minutes.
Yes.
we can permit our participants to go and then have a rest and continue their day.
Yes.
Yeah.
But this has been very engaging. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for joining. We look forward to hearing your crowdsourcing stories if you do go ahead to implement one. Thank you, Maria. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Anna. Thanks for the interesting discussion. And if you don't have any other questions to ask and don't need any discussion, just feel free to leave out our meeting and don't need to come back to the main room. So yeah, and thanks again for joining us. So look forward to our next week, and next week we will have another topic. So yeah, and you can go to our website for more information, and we will upload our archive video and also the PPT slides to our website in the next 24 hours. So yeah, see you next week. Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Have
everyone.
a good day.
Forward to seeing you next week.
Yeah, bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, one and all.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Have a good day.
Yusha, you've been so quiet. I forgot you're on the call.
Actually, I was gonna to share my screen. So yeah, I'm a little have no direction because I need to do multiple tasks at the same time, and then to have some monitoring on our like the web page and something like this, and also the Qualtrics. So Peter needs the coordination.
Do you want me to help?
Yeah. Yeah. Do you want to come back
to the main room? Yeah.
Yeah. If you have something to do with, you can also feel free to leave, and yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Yusha.
Thank you. Yeah. Just lead a very interesting discussion, and we have several questions from our participants, and it's quite good, the whole process.
Hey, are you here to kill me? I'll buy you bubble tea with a lot of boba. Thank you guys so much to all my moderators, to the co-creators, and also to my technical support team. You guys are amazing. I'm really, really, really so happy and lucky to have had you on my team. Thank you very much. Anytime you visit China, I owe you bubble tea. I'll be hoping and looking forward to hosting you. Okay, Chuku, you should come. You need to come.
Yeah, I will also buy both the bubble tea and maybe
Wow.
hot pots.
Hot pot. Yeah,
that's inviting.
Yes, definitely you should come. You should come. And then you should come back. We miss you.
I'll be there soon. Don't worry. Before you know it, you'd see me.
Yeah. Okay, Chao Ching, and everyone else, feel free to log out because we are done for today. We've really, really appreciated your participation, and log in next week at the same time to join us for another session. If you have any questions, like we said, reach out to Zishren or to Yusha via email. For those who have not completed the online survey, the initial survey we started with, please make sure you complete them. It's being posted in the chat box one last time. And if you want the materials, visit our website to download the materials from today for your personal use. We look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Look forward to seeing you next week at the same time.
Bye, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye,
you.
Anayi, and thanks for the good job. You had over 90 participants in your breakout room.
I know, and I was bombarded with questions back to back.
I know.
It was really
I was
engaging.
expecting
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Expert channels.
always so excited to talk
Bye,
about
Sydney. I look forward to your email soon so that we can tag you in our shout outs. So our game had one winner, Danica, and 2 second runner-ups, Jonathan and Sydney, and one third runner-up, Channel. And I asked them to send in their emails and then get their social media handles. So we'll be sending out a shout out to them on our See Hi and our Sesh Twitter account. When I get their information, we'll send them a shout out for being winners of today's trivia game. Is that okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Gipsy, congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations to us all. You guys
did
are like
well.
the best team to work with. I was freaking out. Then I saw everyone log in like 10 minutes before the time. I'm like, okay, I have a whole team with me. I need to relax. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Gipsy. Well done.
Thank
You did a great
See
job.
you guys tomorrow. Thank you very much. See you guys next week.
I will share with you my paper later. I have saw your email. So yeah, Dr. Chuku, I saw your email ask for the paper and I will share with you later.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so some people are still in the breakout rooms. I just closed all the breakout rooms.
So yeah, so maybe I'm not just stop our meeting today. So yeah, maybe
it's
say
okay.
bye.
You can end.
Bye-bye.
You can end the meeting for today. Thank you very much.
Yeah. And